call this meeting to order, and Ms. Townwatch, would you deliver the invitation?
If you're able, please stand and bow your heads while we go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, thank you for this beautiful day and this life-giving rain. Thank you for all the folks that are serving overseas on behalf of each of us so that we may have the freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States and as our democracy. Give us the heart, the help, the patience, and the strength to make the right decisions on behalf of our government here and the Cherokee people and all of northeastern Oklahoma. Watch over those who are ill and sick, whether they be at home or in the hospital, and give them strength and safe travels. And thank you for everything that you've given us. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Townwatch. Ms. Britton, roll call.
Mary Taylor. Here. Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzer.
Here.
Julia Coates. Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
Hannah Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton. Tara Callan Watts.
Honey,
We do have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Before we get started, because of this long agenda, I'm going to limit the discussion on the reports to 2 minutes and limit discussion per person on the rest of the agenda to 3 minutes. Mr. Thornton?
I would like to add these resolutions to the
Agenda?
proposed agenda already.
Okay, you make a motion to amend the agenda.
Amend the agenda,
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay,
One is a resolution in support of the, okay. Do you have something?
Ms. Townwatch?
Well, it is to clarify what resolutions we're adding, just for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting ready.
Before we vote.
Slow down. Okay, Mr. Thornton.
One is to add the support of the Adair State Park located in Stillwell, Adair County, Oklahoma. That's a request to the state of Oklahoma for it to remain open. Another one is to add a resolution in support of Lake Lucci State Park, located in Delaware County, Oklahoma, and a request to the state of Oklahoma for it to remain open. And the third is a resolution in support of Brushy Lake State Park, located in Sequoia County, Oklahoma, and a request to the state of Oklahoma for it to remain open. These are set aside separate so that in each one of these areas, in these districts, we have different representatives and senators, and that's the people that I'd like to see this go to. But anyway.
Any discussion on amending the agenda to include these 3 items under new business? That would be new business items 12, 13, and 14. Okay, next order of business is the approval of the February 24th regular session meeting.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chairman,
Oh,
just
sorry.
I just have I guess a point of order or on information. The item 10 doesn't have a council sponsor, and I'm just curious as to what the sponsorship is on that one. That's
Item 10,
Ragsdale's request.
this is for discussion. Whatever, I'll sponsor it. Chair. And what was the other one, Chuck?
that was it. Yeah, that was the only one I was unsure about.
Okay. Mr. Buzzer?
Madam Speaker, I don't know if this is the correct time or not, but I'm going to be pulling item number 11 off the agenda for discussion today.
Item
We may
number
free up
11, removing the...
Tuesday morning committee meeting. I'm going to be pulling
You're gonna
that.
withdraw.
I'm going to withdraw.
Okay, also we have a withdrawal on new business item 2. And Mr. Baker?
Point of order, we did not vote on amending the agenda.
I'm sorry?
We did not vote on amending the agenda.
That's correct. We're getting ready to. We were still in discussion, and I hurried it along. Any further changes? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Baker.
Madam Chairman, I hate to take time, but it's important. If each and one of you would put former councilperson Johnny Keener in your prayers. He has really had a rough bout, and he is home with hospice, and so if anybody needs to see him, now would be the time.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Yes.
On item 10, I noticed in our packet we didn't have any information on it. Aren't we supposed to get information regarding these
If it's
items?
available, but this is for discussion.
Well, it's got impossible action.
Right.
Would there be a way that we can get everyone to adhere to our 10-day requirement on information?
Yes, we can
I
just
think
deny everything.
I think we've asked for that before, and I would just like to bring it up again that our packets are made 10 days ahead of time, and it would be good if we had this information, our resolution, our act, or whatever they intend to.
Sometimes there are emergency situations, and this apparently is not an emergency, but we amend the agenda lots of times to include those items. Ms. Drysdale?
Madam Chair, just to point out, this is a follow-up from what the Principal Chief presented last month, and the information was provided then. So it's identical information that was provided last month, and it's a follow-up.
When it says impossible action, I'm assuming it's an act or resolution that someone might present to us.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the act or resolution for the forming of a subcommittee. I'm not
So you
familiar with
intend to
that.
have us take no action, right?
It's a discussion about the subcommittee, which was brought up last month, so it's a follow-up.
Okay.
But the information has been provided to you. That was
I remember the handout, but when it says impossible action, I like to see the act or resolution that we're going to be considering, if that's how it's worded.
Madam Chair, do you require,
If you all want to require a resolution to appoint a subcommittee, then we can bring that forward, but I don't think we've ever had that before, have we?
I would just like to remind the audience and remind everyone here that we get these packets at least 10 days ahead of time. And number 10 is empty. And we really need to have more information behind number 10 for real informative discussion. And I would just like to make that point. We've asked about it before. It seems like every couple of months we get lax on these requirements. And I would just ask the chairman of the Rules Committee to make everyone aware of that requirement.
Thank you.
just to follow up, Madam Chair, didn't duplicate the packet that had already been provided in the interest of saving trees and the environment. I apologize. I can duplicate those packets.
Okay, thank you. Okay, have we done the minutes yet?
No, ma'am.
Okay, now it's time to approve the minutes of the February 24th regular session minutes.
Make a motion to be approved.
Moved and second. Discussion on the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, under reports, I'll remind you that those presenting reports and the council also, we have 2 minutes per report. And that's in the interest of time. Michelle, you got your clock ready?
Our written report was already submitted, so I can take any questions into the written
Any
report.
questions? Yes, Mr. Baker?
Yeah, the investigation by the DIA or the FBI on the evidence room and all the guns and confiscated stuff, where are we on all that?
Okay, the guns were separate, different things. The federal inquiry, it never got to an investigation. The federal inquiry on the evidence system and the drug area, they've concluded that, and they're not going to go forward with any investigation. They're shipping our materials back to us. We should have them by Friday, by tomorrow. So that's ended with no further investigation and no charges pending or anything like that. The other one was an investigation because of a theft of items, and that one, there was an indictment in federal court on that individual, and I think they even put a notice in the paper that the Mark Cummings case, there was an indictment there. And he's set for trial in May. So we're finished with that. The BIA also audited all of our processes. They did that the first of the month, and we ended up with a 93% overall. I'll say that we probably ended up with that 93% because we've been working with our own internal audit and compliance. They have not finished their audit of our program, but they worked with us on any deficiencies we would have and started the corrective measures. And by the time the BIA had came in and went through our program, we made a 93% overall. So we have most all the corrections done and have very few pending.
Can we see what those corrections were?
When the internal audit is done from audit and compliance, it should articulate what those were and where we're at now, and I can make sure you have a copy of that.
We can do that in general.
Sorry, time's up. Thank you. Mr. Thornton, no, Sheriff, we're not finished with you.
Sorry.
Mine will be quick and easy. In the Cherokee Nation, we have marshals that are adequate in diving, water safety,
Yes.
and that type of thing.
Yes.
If we have a Cherokee that drowns within the nation, are you able to go in and assist another law enforcement agency? But
We have
do
been-
they have to request it?
Yes, or we might not know. But if they request our dive team or our swift water personnel,
To grab?
we would assist, yes.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you. I thought about you a couple times, but I never did call you.
Mr. Buzzer?
Sharon, just a quick question. On the meth lab in Delaware County, was that on trust land or fee land?
It ended up being on fee land.
Okay.
It started out, they thought it was on trust land,
Right.
and so we were up there, both the state and us, but it ended up being on state land.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am.
Any other questions for Ms. Wright? Thank you, Sharon. Office of Attorney General, Ms. Hammond.
Was I not on the list? I thought I was on the list.
I didn't see your hand. Sharon, sorry. Did she leave? Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I'm sorry. I just have one question.
I didn't see your hand go up. Sharon, sorry about that.
Sharon,
Yes.
as a result of that investigation where the guy was, one of the former marshals was indicted there in Muskogee Federal Court, do we now have a complete inventory of all evidence held by the Marshal Service for any case?
We do, and I'll just split hairs here, and I probably don't need to. For one thing, he wasn't a marshal, he was a security guard, and he was a reserve deputy. It just became. The other is that the weapons that he stole were stolen out of supply, not out of evidence.
So did he steal our own weapons?
Yes.
Okay. So, we have, as a result of all this investigation though, I believe now we can safely tell the public that we have an inventory of every asset we might be holding that might be considered evidence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Nothing that we know of is missing in any case that we might be involved in.
Correct. We have went through them all, and all of this is probably more than you want to know, but before our evidence was held by the case, so we had a lot of evidence that was probably state evidence because we worked the case. What we have done is worked with the local agencies, got all of that evidence back to them, so that now the evidence that's in our evidence locker is very small amount and more able to keep record of. The other is we implemented all of the systems that were recommended by the BIA, so it's all accounted for, and they come in once a month and audit us to make sure that we're still keeping all of it intact. And the last piece is that we received some funding and have made the requisition to purchase a evidence system that matches up to the OSBI's. So when we scan it in, it will scan in the same with OSBI, so there won't be two tracking numbers.
Time, Sharon.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before Sharon escapes? All right, thank you. Ms. Hammonds?
Thank you. Good afternoon. In addition to, you have my report. In addition to that, in the last month, we are currently in jury trial downtown in our tribal courthouse on a juvenile case. Chrissy Nemo's doing that. It probably will conclude late tonight or tomorrow morning. Cheryl Hamby, another one of our assistants, had an oral argument at the Kansas Supreme Court. Sort of interesting. One of those things that is tragic and both cause for pride for us. Cheryl, some of you know, I know District 1 Council members probably know her and know that she was a nurse before she went to law school. So she's an RN as well as a lawyer. And the lawyers on the council can appreciate this. Oral argument before the highest court is a very, very stressful thing. So she prepares, she goes, she does her presentation. It's tough. They hammer her with a lot of questions. She finishes, the other side gets up. They start hammering him, and at one point you can hear, because we're listening to it on the computer, you can hear the justice say, "Mr., are you all right?" And then, oh, you don't hear anything else, and he collapsed there at the podium, and Cheryl had to respond. So she took care of him, got 911 called. He's fine, but you know, we were awfully proud of her, both as a lawyer and using her medical training. The election season, as you all know, is heating up, which brings more business to our office. I have reviewed various ballots and sent them back to the Election Commission. I'm going to be sending out just a reminder notice to all the candidates about use of Cherokee Nation equipment, Cherokee Nation phones. Can't do that. Any campaign calls can't come in to Cherokee Nation phones, employees during work hours, and I'm going to send that out as a reminder probably this week.
2 minutes.
I'm finished. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Hammond? Yes, Mr. Baker?
Can you tell us how Ethics Point works or doesn't work?
Ethics Point is I don't have anything to do with it, so I'm going to be just telling you what I anecdotally know. It is an anonymous call-in system that was set up by us with an additional checks and balances. Calls go in there. They're anonymous. They get then referred to the Marshal Service. And I think they act as the clearinghouse for where they're going to go. Some things come to us eventually that started out in Ethics Point because they've led to a criminal case.
It's basically one of the reviewers. It is both a system where anybody can call in and make any complaint that they want. It is if it's a law enforcement matter, it goes to law enforcement and stays in that channel. If it's an administrative complaint, like registration or internal or external, then it is normally referred to the program head or to a third party for this fall.
And so that's part of what I'm getting is people are calling in, and it's immediately getting back to their department, and if they haven't been an employee, it's almost like they root out who they are, and they're not feeling very comfortable with Ethics Point anonymously.
Well, it is an anonymous system, and if you bring the particulars to us, we'll review that because that is not our protocol. People sometimes identify themselves, sometimes they do not. but they're all protected under retaliation. Sometimes their complaints are valid, sometimes their complaints are not. Those are all handled specially. It's similar to the federal system or the hotline for the Inspector General. That is a total system. So it's an attempt, it's not a perfect system. Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Time's up. Any other questions for Ms. Hammonds? Yes, Mr. Hall?
Yeah, did you get my totals I asked for last month?
On the amount of hours on the Sequoia High School, I do, and I'm going to put it to you in writing. I just got the final figures this morning. Actually, Ms. Rex there reminded me to get that to you. Our office had out-of-pocket expenses in the amount of $917. That was for an administrative appeal fee, a transcript, and a filing fee. We don't keep our hours. That's one of the benefits of being a government lawyer rather than a private sector lawyer. You don't have to keep your time. But we estimate approximately 150 hours, attorney hours, and that's since about September of 2010 when the calls first came in from the coach and the superintendent that they thought they were going to have an issue.
Okay, about 150 hours?
Yes, and I'll follow that up with an email too.
Okay. What does an hourly what rate for a lawyer?
I'll have to get that to you.
Okay.
Our hourly varies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Hammonds? Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, Election Commission, or someone from the Election Commission? We do have their written report in our packet. Tax Commission is Swepson.
I'm not Miss Webster, but you'll have to put up with me. You got the report?
That's obvious.
Oh. Just because I opened and closed your umbrella for you. I'll answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Thanks.
Good, thank you. Ms. Hanvey, self-government. 2 minutes, Ms. Hanvey.
I'll keep it brief. I believe I have my report. The only thing I have to update you on is that we've received our continuing resolution payments through April 8th, so we are current with our funding payments through the last continuing resolution. And we're beginning to get started on Recovery Act reporting begins tomorrow. So that's what we're working on.
Good deal. Any questions for Vicki? Yes, Mr. Hopkins?
Do you deal with the prospect of the potential April 8th shutdown if they haven't reached a continuing resolution? I haven't seen the latest news. Last time I checked, the Republicans were still holding the government hostage. So I don't know if anything's changed, but does that affect what you guys do directly?
Well, it depends on what you're asking for. As far as the Recovery Act reporting that we're working on now, the best information that I have is that the system will still be up. We have 10 days to report, so should it shut down, should there be a government shutdown, worst case scenario on the 8th, we would still be under the guidelines to report by the 10th, but I'm sure that they would work with us should there be any issues. My understanding is that the system will still be up and running. There just may not be any support available, and there certainly wouldn't be anyone at the agency level to assist with that. But I really don't think there's going to be any problems. All of that is electronic, so unless the system crashes or something like that, and even if that were to happen, I think that they would work with us considering the circumstances. As far as the funding level goes, I would probably defer to administration on I know that they've had a group working together on contingency planning and so forth, but I would defer to administration in that regard.
Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Chloe Jordan?
Vicki, would it be possible for you to provide to the council a summary report on, I'm not real sure what I should call it, maybe the awards and expenditures of federal grants and what is left unspent, I've noticed that we're not getting it don't seem like we're getting a per year report of expenditures and awards. First, not getting a per year report of awards, and then a per year report of expenditures of those awards, and what is left unspent that we need to maybe account for. And I'm especially interested because my areas that I've always been kind of interested in is NAHASDA funding. And I think I'm talking to the right department. I think you're the one that probably reviews those things.
Well, actually, yes and no.
Okay. Is it possible for you to give us such a report of what I'm asking for?
Actually, that would be something that would come from the controller's office. As far as self-governance, I work with self-governance as far as DOI, the 477 funding, and then as far as the grants, we, once a grant is awarded, we keep track of the grants as they come in and distribute those award documents out.
Do you come back later and look at the expenditures?
What we do on self-governance.
Grants? That's what I'm interested in.
And basically Marvin Jones is responsible for the NAHASDA piece of that.
But I'm interested in all of it, not just NAHASDA, but all of it.
Time's up. Any other questions, Ms. Handy?
I think she said ask Callie.
Yep.
To Callie.
So when Callie comes up, I'll ask her the
Yeah.
same question.
Mr. Buzzer?
I just got a quick comment. I know, Vicki, your line of work is probably not NAHASDA or HUD, but I'm concerned because we don't have another meeting for 2 weeks about NAHASDA and HUD funding because of the vote that's going to go to Congress this next week. And Pat may be on top of that as far as writing some letters to senators and congressmen or even testifying on the Hill.
Are you
No,
talking?
not question 10. It has to do with our housing funding. You know, if it's going to be approved in this next Congress. So that's my concern. I want us to be on top of that because that's a big part of our dollars here for nation. So anyway, if you check on that, Vicki or Pat, you know, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Vicki. Mr. Hummingbird.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon.
I'm glad for you to see me today.
Thank you.
I hope
Appreciate your grace
my
and
report made it into the, I think I might have got it in late, so I apologize. I'll get a copy over here to you. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, I'll do what I can to answer them. If I don't know an answer, I'll make something up.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Calhoun.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know about the last remark, because you are a gaming commissioner. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other questions or remarks? Thank you, Jamie. That's the shortest report you've given. Mr. Hembry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The IT continues to reformat the work that's been done by myself and the members of the Attorney General's office. We expect that to be completed very soon. When that is done, we will be presenting a global package to the council for its approval, and a little bit of what was touched on last month. There will be suggestions as to some acts that are not constitutional vis-a-vis the 2006 Constitution. There was also a review of the acts that would be, you know, in particular the one act that Chief Smith brought forward last month. I will say that we already had on there a question mark of whether it was constitutional, but it will be presented to this board or this committee to put the final blessings on and delete the acts that need to be deleted and put a final touch on it and send it to the printers after it's complete.
Any questions for Mr. Hembry? Thank you, Todd. Mr. Enlow, or someone representing Mr. Enlow on the Registrar Citizenship Data? Aye.
I think you have Mr. Enlow's report. I haven't actually seen it. I hope you got it. But I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Any
Yeah.
questions? Anybody have any questions? Yeah, easy.
You have to use the gavel, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Reed with the Youth Leadership Council. Garrett? Want you all to know he's from District 4.
Where's that?
Well, I believe the report
was in the packet. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Reed? Yes, Ms. Fishing Hawk?
Question? Oh, for you or Todd one, but do you all, does the youth council ever attend our NCAI meetings? Because there's things there for you to do, and I was just curious if that was ever built into the budget.
We don't attend NCAI, and we haven't in the past, but they do attend the Unity Conference, which is kind of like a Congress of Youth, Native Youth across the country. So it's kind of a similar event, but not really NCAI. But it takes place actually at the same time this year, on the same week.
The same week. Okay, this year it's the same. Okay.
Ms. Camwatt?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And if you want to consider it, they are retooling the Youth Council for NCAI, but they're still unclear about the age, which is why I brought it forward to you guys. They're going back and forth on what age they're actually going to include or not include. I've never been to Unity, so I can't compare the two. And I know we have a lot of Cherokees involved. It's probably, this is where policy and a lot of things happen, so it'd be a much different experience. But it wouldn't be their environment. It would be a bunch of adults, which I don't know that would be appropriate either, so. Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other questions? Thank you for being here, Garrett.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business, item 1 is the Tribal Council travel expense policy proposed amendment.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
I'd
Buell?
like to move to table this because we have other issues down the line and just take it right now. I move to table this item.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 1 under new business is a resolution confirming the nomination of Janie Dibble as a governing board member of the Comprehensive Care Agency. Hi, Natalie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Principal Chief is pleased to nominate Ms. Dibble. She's here today if you'd like to speak with her. She's a Cherokee tribal citizen. She does not participate at this point in any other boards or commissions that we have. She is a former employee and has a vast amount of experience in Native American health and women's health issues. So we would submit her respectfully for nomination for the Comprehensive Care Agency.
I have a motion to
Move for approval.
Second.
and moved in second. Now, Ms. Dibble, before we take final vote, would you like to come forward to answer any questions or say whatever you want to say? Well, not whatever you want to say, but welcome.
Hi.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here. It's been a long time. I was at Cherokee Nation, left in 1995, so and some of you I still recognize you from then. She stated some things that I've done, and after leaving Cherokee Nation, I was also a district manager for assisted living, and so I have background experience with the aging as well. I'm currently a program director for the Family Preservation Program, which is funded through the Administrative for Native Americans.
Any questions for Ms. Dibble? Yes, Ms. Gloria Jordan?
You still live in Broken Arrow?
I do.
Okay. And this may be a question for Melanie. Is this A non-paying?
Yes.
It's not, I thought it was, I just wanted to, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, all in favor of this nomination signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2 was withdrawn, so moving on to 3. It's a resolution confirming the nomination of Deborah Scott as a board member of the Cherokee Nation Community Association Corporation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deborah Scott is a Cherokee citizen living in Houston and is active in our at-large community groups there. She has a lot of experience in Native American affairs, although this isn't that type of thing isn't a requirement for the position. She does have that involvement in Native American communities elsewhere, in health issues and other types of community-based issues, and we would respectfully submit her for the At-Large Community Association.
Move to Baker.
And I'll second.
Moved in second. Apparently she wasn't able to be here.
That's right, but she is available by phone if there are any
Okay.
questions of her.
Mr. Baker?
I've known Deborah for a long time. Actually, she was a member of our Constitutional Convention in 1999. I've known her since then, and she's been very good in this position. Thank you.
Ms. Coates, did you?
Yeah, I've known Deborah for probably close to 15 years at this point. Also, as a founding member of 2 organizations in Houston of at-large people, and she's very, very experienced for the position that she's.
Mr. Crittenden, did you have your hand up?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Madam Speaker, just for point of order,
Mr. Husband.
would you just assign a sponsor to these before they go to full council if they don't already have one?
They never have had one in the past, but if that's what the
Okay.
council desires, I don't have a problem with
No
it.
sponsor.
Okay, sponsors, thank you. Okay, item 4 is a resolution declaring Cherokee We Are Many as the national anthem of the Cherokee Nation. Scott.
Yes. The Nancy Ward Society had a resolution at their last meeting asking the council to consider making this the national anthem of the Cherokee Nation. Jack Baker was there as well, and it's a very well done piece, and the youth choir has recorded it, and Jack will probably say more about it than I.
Mr. Baker, do you have
Was that a
comment?
motion?
That is a motion, yes.
And I will second the motion.
And any further discussion?
Becky Hobbs is a Cherokee Nation citizen, and she has written she's been a songwriter for many years. Maybe Country Western has written some #1 hits for various country singers.
Ms. Coates?
Thank you. I don't have any objection to having a national anthem or something like that, but I do strongly feel that just because we receive something from somebody, although I know her as well and everything, but I think that if we're going to do this, there are undoubtedly other Cherokee citizens who also write music and write good music, and that if we are going to do something like this, we should do it in a more fair process, which would probably involve a competitive a competition of some sort. So I won't be supporting this.
Ms. Count
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess what I was concerned about too was the lack of record on it. And I'm familiar with it, just as procedurally, shouldn't the actual music, the words to the music and the actual music notes be included in the documentation? So that if we go back sometime, there's not, what did we approve or what did we, if it starts being altered or something else, what is the official? And I don't see that that's included.
You mean like attaching a copy of the CD or something, or
well, not
in a written form?
In a written form for it. And if it's something that in Legistar we could attach the voice file or something, that would also be a unique time in our history that we'd be able to add that. And I don't know if we need to then table it for next month in order to include all that so we know what we're actually approving, or, so I'll just make a motion to table for 1 month.
Motion to table. Do I have a second? Did I hear somebody say second? Oh, okay. All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It's tabled till next month. Item 5 is an amendment to the Fraternity Act, and that's under tab 5. There are some amendments. One is the Office of Child Support Enforcement was recently changed to Child Support Services, and that name change is made throughout this legislation. And the second change is on page 1, section 102. They're eliminating section 102. This particular section is rather confusing and doesn't conform to the nationally accepted definition of child support, which includes support, maintenance, and education. Like one interpretation claims that because a custodial party did not provide adequate child support, then there are other issues to be addressed. On the other hand, if the custodial party is providing adequate support, they don't need to provide anything else. So the work group that's working on this recommended that we eliminate it and will add the additional language in Title 43, which already addresses the language as it conforms to the nationally accepted definition. Did you want to bring, what's Title 43 include? I'm sorry, I didn't pull it up.
That's okay. Title 43, it actually says supporting education. We are actually currently, our work group is working on the revisions for Title 43, and we plan on including the definition of maintenance at that time in that particular section.
Thank you. Third is on page 3, section 105. We recently amended Title 20, expanding the eligibility to children that are eligible for tribal enrollment, and those changes are made throughout this title also. And the final two are on page 4, section 110C1. It includes a good cause allowance to deviate from the 60 months of past due support from a man who has just been determined to be the father of a child, provided he can show good cause to do so. And the second on that page is section 110C2. Previously, amendments to the code removed provisions requiring child support services to assess birthing costs as a child support arrearage to a non-married, non-custodial parent. And apparently this section could have been deleted with the original amendment, but wasn't, so they asked us to consider eliminating it here. Am I correct on all of that?
Yes.
Madam?
Yes.
And with that, I would request someone to move for approval.
I'll make a motion to be approved.
Second. Moved and second, now discussion. Mr. Hoskins?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had a question concerning section 104D, and you may have already addressed it, Madam Speaker, but why are we changing that to giving the court discretion to enter a support order as opposed to requiring them to enter a support order?
Just a second. 104.
I'm just curious.
Oh, shall instead of may, and we want to change it to may at the discretion of the court. The reason being is this actual paternity involves all paternity actions that are not necessarily child support paternity actions, but may fall under paternity actions of child welfare, and I'll let the AG's office speak a little bit more on that.
We do use this in the juvenile cases and everything else, and there's times that it's not appropriate to try to apply child support in certain cases, and so this just gives the court discretion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. And this is an act by acclamation. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6 is an act establishing procedures and requirements for the naming of buildings or facilities of the Cherokee Nation and its entities. Mr. Hoskins.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue is whether the naming of our public buildings should be done by legislative act or by unilateral action of the executive branch. the history may be somewhat mixed. There may have been times the council passed a resolution. There's certainly no law that says the chief can't name a building anything that he wants, and there's certainly no law that says the chief can't name a building anything he wants without notice to the council. I think for the most part, the chief would give us notice. The question is that meaningful notice? Is it an opportunity for us to really consider the name of the public buildings? I think public buildings are very important. They sort of reflect who we are as a nation. The people's branch of government ought to be responsible for determining what the names are through the normal legislative process. The Bonita Clinic was just maybe one example, but it is something I've thought about for a long time. How do we name our buildings? In the case of the Bonita Clinic, the first time that I found out the name of the clinic was at the groundbreaking ceremony, or maybe when I got the postcard in the mail. And it did occur to me that if we're going to name a building, a public building, particularly one of such importance as a health clinic, that we ought to be deliberate about it, not just allow the executive branch to be deliberate. I know that they were. I know that they approached it in good faith. I know that they applied some standards to come up with a name. I completely respect that process. But rather than have the executive branch do that and that be the end of it, let them do that and propose it as they do just about every other significant action in this government. Let them propose it as a name for the council to consider. This is essentially the process that the 50 states use and the federal government uses. Certainly when the post office is named, it's named by act of Congress. It's not an overly burdensome process on Congress. It wouldn't be an overly burdensome process for us. So that's what this act does, Madam Speaker, and with that I'd move for its approval.
Have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Discussion? Dr. Cobb?
Just want to make sure, and I know probably you have, are you, and I agree, I think that I'd like to see the council at least a little bit apprised of the situation. I don't think there was any malintent at all. I just, I was kind of like Councilor Hoskin with some of these. I was like, oh, okay. I just want to make sure you've kind of, I know you have, but thought through as an act the way to go with this, and I'll yield some time on that rebuttal.
Well, I thank the councilman. I do think it needs to be a legislative act. If we do it by way of policy, certainly a policy can be changed from time to time. I haven't seen a policy yet. If there's a policy that has some teeth in it, I mean, for example, if there was a policy that was acceptable, it would be one that would essentially track what this legislation says. It would prohibit the publicizing of a name before it's been at least vetted by the council. That's what a policy would entail. But the question is, what do we, if that policy is going to be meaningful, if it's really going to give the council a meaningful opportunity to weigh in on the naming of the building, then is it really much of an additional burden to have to pass legislation? Because imagine this scenario, Councilman. Imagine in the case of the Bonita Clinic, and by the way, I don't have a problem with the name that was selected. Imagine in the case of Bonita Clinic, we had a policy and the chief had come to us through some report and said, this is the name that I propose. We had talked about it in committee. Whether we voted on it or not, we had some consensus. Yeah, that's a good name. How much additional work would it be for us to then adopt that as a body and go to full council? It would delay it maybe a month. So the question is, how much of a burden does it place on the system to go forward and have a legislative act? I don't think it places enough of a burden to really matter. But I think the interest here is having a very deliberate process where the people's branch of government can weigh in a very meaningful way. I mean, 99 times out of 100, this chief or any chief is going to present an acceptable name to the council. It's that 100th time that concerns me. It's that 100th time that the name is objectionable, and then the council has to sort of, put the toothpaste back in the tube. The building's already been named, it's already been publicized, but yet the people tell us that's not the name we want. That's not the name we want. I think this act does it. I don't think you can do it effectively through policy. But I appreciate the question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, some time remaining.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, Mrs. Scottsdale, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up, Mr. Hoskin and I had a discussion regarding this proposed act. The principal chief at this time, I believe, had the same question Dr. Cobb had, and do we need that? And we'd be more than happy to bring forth a policy. I do understand your concerns about having some consistent procedures and processes in place, but at this time, the principal chief does not believe we need the act and does not support this piece of legislation. So I just wanted to, for the record, get that on the record for him. However, we did discuss that we'd like to further discuss some policy and possibly have a further discussion with you.
Madam Speaker, could I rebut, or someone to yield me
You have
a
some
brief
time
period?
left, yes.
I guess what I would ask the administration, because I get the question often if I propose an act, well, why do we need to do it by act? Why do we need to do it by policy? What is saved? What resource is saved by policy? The chief's prerogative is saved by policy. The chief's ability to unilaterally act is certainly preserved if it's by policy. But what else is saved besides that?
Oh, he's got 30 seconds.
He does, or I do?
Unless someone follows up. I certainly.
Go right ahead.
In response to that, I would just say bogging down the system and adding to, legislating something that I would think we could all sit down at a table and come to a reasonable solution and consistent procedure.
Mr. Hembry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To follow up on the question of Councilor Cobb, in this instance, I believe that a legislative act would be appropriate instead of a policy or resolution in this regard, because we know that policies, change at the direction of the executive and direction of a different chief. Resolutions are merely statements of will of the council that carry no force and effect. A legislative act is exactly that. It is a law of the nation. In deciding whether to name a building, that is an important function. That is a permanent act in most cases. And we have a procedure set forth in the legislative act. If the council comes forward and say that we want to name the next health clinic the Andrew Jackson Health Clinic, then the chief obviously would veto that act, and it would go into a two-thirds majority. The checks and balances are there with a legislative act. Right now there is no checks and balances. If this chief or any other chief would select a name that is controversial or objectionable, that's what it is. And this process puts forth the final say-so in the legislative process. Both the council and the executive branch are invested in this process, and that's why a legislative act, in my opinion, would be better than anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
Cobb?
Yes, sir.
I've just got one question to ask you. Let's say that Wilma Keller Clinic, let's say that we didn't care for that name and we want to change it to the Stan Wade Clinic. Could we bring forth an act and have it passed to change that name, or is that written in stone that clinic's going to be named Wilma Main?
Well, right now there is no policy set forward.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can't this body, governing body of the law, bring forth an act to change a name?
Yeah, and also in that same regard, right now the chief or whoever the chief in the future, if they are a historical fan of Stan Wade, can sua sponte or by themselves change that health clinic, and that's where the policy rub comes in.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Thornton.
Thank you. I've got my answer.
Mr. Crittenden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Were we to consider changing the name of Wilma Keller Clinic for whatever reason, I sure wouldn't pick that name to change it to, but, and I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Chuck Hoskin, please.
Mr. Hoskin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Councilman. The word bog down the system, the phrase, it kind of reminds me of the Chief's column in the last Phoenix, these buzzwords. Because what does that mean, bog down the system? I think I've demonstrated that the bogging down of the system would be the proposal of a name, the consideration of that name at the committee, and as quickly as the next full council meeting, the naming of a building. I've yet to hear the administration demonstrate why, when the council wants to take legislative action, that it's bogging down the system. It strikes me that it's a euphemism for bogging down the chief's prerogative. And it's not just this chief that I'm worried about. I think the Cherokee Nation ought to name buildings through legislative act. These are important measures that ought to be considered by the two lawmaking branches of government. It reflects who we are as a people. And with respect to Mr. Thornton, it's a very good question. Can we take legislative action now? Well, yes, we could. If we build a building tomorrow, though, and the chief says it's going to be the, so-and-so named clinic, it's already out there. It's already out there for public consumption. It's already held out to the public as the name. It is effectively a matter of law in the minds of the people. And then the council bears the burden of saying, are we going to change that? What this act says is, chief, you can't do it. You got to come to us and propose it. And through the normal legislative act, we'll do it. I don't see how it bogs down the system, with all due respect to Ms. Ragsdale. And I'd certainly appreciate her rebuttal. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Do you want to yield to your remaining time to Ms. Ragsdale?
Me, I still have time? Hallelujah. Yes, I will.
You got a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Hodgkin. My rebuttal, I would suppose, is the importance of business that comes through. As we stated, a policy to sit down and discuss something, naming of a building, and you're correct, the Wilma P. Mankiller Clinic was named by legislative act. The John A. Ketcher Center was named by legislative act. I would think the time for gaining a consensus through the legislative process, if the principal chief disagreed with current chief or another chief disagreed with the process, or the naming of a building that act that came to his desk, then his only option would be to veto. So then an additional 30 days, 45 days, or back to the table to discuss, which is what I'm proposing and what I think the principal chief is saying. He agrees with you about consistency and having a procedure, a process, a policy, putting something with teeth in it.
On. Ms. Kitchenoff?
I'm going to yield to Chuck. Pardon? I was going to yield to Chuck.
I think we've exhausted
I
the
think
discussion,
so.
but it's been a good one. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Soul?
Yeah, I was just curious of how many buildings or facilities does the Cherokee Nation own and its entities own? What's that number?
All of them.
Madam Chair, that would be off the top of my head, and I'd say 100 or more.
Okay.
And that'd be a guess on my part. I mean, they don't come around. We don't build new ones, every month, but we do have a few buildings.
Thank you.
And not all have names.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, there's no provision in this act for anyone to bring forward a name. It doesn't say the chief can or who does. So I move to table until next month.
Second.
When we can look at policies, procedures, or a change to the act that provides that. Thank you.
Move the table with the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll table it for next month, Mr. Hoskin. Item 7 is an act rejecting the recommendations of the Citizen Committee established, which calls for a pay increase for elected officials. Mr. Baker?
Yes, the purpose of this is within the act of 0511, which says that the Citizen Committee will go into effect automatically if this council does nothing. And so this act is the opportunity to refuse 11% a year for the next 4 years, where we're going to take the council salary up to more than $54,000, which 60–70% of our employees work 40 hours a week and don't make that. And But this is our opportunity to reject the raise. And I have been in all 14 counties in the last 2 weeks. And folks, you have a hard time finding anybody that thinks it's a good deal. So I'm going to put it in the form of a motion to reject the Citizens Committee's recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, discussion? Any discussion? Mr. Thornton?
Call for the question.
Ms. Lori Jordan, did you have a comment?
I did have a comment, or we just, okay. Folks, we knew when we passed this other portion of where we gave the right to the committee to make those decisions, and if y'all recall, I was opposed to it at that time, but we knew and had sitting on our desk what they were saying that they thought we ought to be raised to. And again, I encourage you to vote this raise down, because in this economy, we just cannot justify taking a raise at this time, and certainly a raise of this magnitude. I would simply ask you to find it in your heart that let's not take this money from our treasury at this time when we have so many services that we've had to cut this year, and where we have not provided the employees a comparable situation. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Ms. Fisher-Hawk?
I too will be voting against this for the same reason Tina mentioned. We'll all be voting for it. I'm against the pay raise. The same reason Tina mentioned, we haven't done this for our employees. We gave them 3%, like 39 cents an hour pay raise. And when we're cutting programs, I don't see me wanting to up my pay. Thank you.
Mr. Soap, did you have your hand up?
I do not believe at this time, Madam Speaker.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe at this time, but I can
Oh,
say
okay, I
something.
saw somebody's hand shoot up over there.
It wasn't mine, but I
Okay.
can say that, I guess I will raise my hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that,
Sorry.
you know, this comes right on the heels of the previous legislation being passed. And I think that for a long time, again, we'll talk about the fact that this committee has been unable to agree upon when and where the best time of compensation will be afforded to this tribal council. I won't be running for a second seat on this tribal council, but have been worked on the tribal council for the last 3.5 years. I know how hard each and every one of these tribal council members works for the people. In addition to that we've already done, the districts have become larger. There's going to be a lot more travel. There's going to be a lot more people that you'll be addressing and taking care of. So I just think that you need to consider that as you make and cast your vote today. Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin?
Madam Speaker, you'll tell me if I'm out of order, but the chief's letter that was just circulated, I asked this question is for Todd. Is Todd in the room?
Always at your service.
Hiding in the corner. Does the Legislative Act 0511 allow the chief to unilaterally not take his pay increase, or in fact, doesn't that have to be through Legislative Act? I don't know if we have the act in front of it, but the chief's memo of March 30th indicates he's going to refuse the pay increase, and I just wonder if it's actually possible to do that.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, you know, no one here has to cash a check that is sent to them by the Cherokee Nation.
Well, that's not the question I guess I'm asking. It's not whether he cashes the check. Is there a mechanism for him to say, keep my pay at the current levels? I didn't read the legislation that way.
Well, you know, you can take, I don't know if there's a mechanism to keep at the current level, but I mean, if he were to be issued a check in accordance with 0511 and he wanted to donate a portion back of his pay to take it back to that level, he could. Yeah, no one can force you to take money, you know, for any service. I will say on the record I am not volunteering to do that. Okay.
We're good.
But at any rate, I mean, that is a fact. No one can force you, I mean, if for instance, the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, when he was elected president, he chose to forego his salary as president, to my understanding, if my history books are correct. So I guess, and I haven't seen this letter, but
I guess I'm looking at the underlying legislative act, and it says that let's see here, Part 4 under 5D4 says the report shall become law unless rejected by legislative act, which within 60 days. I'm just wondering what mechanism does the chief use to, apart from not cashing a check and maybe sending some to United Way, what does he do to not accept a statutory pay rate?
no, I think the
Mr. Henry.
Pardon?
1 minute.
Oh, well, I don't know that there is a mechanism to say, don't cut me a check. I think a check has to be cut in accordance with the law. And then as what you do with that money is up to you, whether you donate it back to the Cherokee Nation, whether you don't cash it, that's,
those funds aren't going to sit in the treasury for us to use for services, certainly. Thank you.
Time's up on that question. Mr. Thornton.
I realize in the past, I think we had a council person that when we both had a raise that was Barbara Starscott. She took her funding over and give it back to the health department or give it to whoever she wanted to give it to. And myself, I'm not going to take what I get over and give it back to the health department, but I'm planning on helping my people in my own district with it. And that's primarily what I'm going to do. But I will be voting, I don't know, yes or no, whatever the same passes, either for passing, but that's primarily what I'm going to do. And I'll put it in writing if somebody wants it.
Mr. Thornton, did you want to yield to Ms. Ragsdale?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The letter, we had just sent it, the principal chief just wanted to make it official. I believe he has made a statement previously about he has decided not to accept an increase, whether that be in the form of budget process, Mr. Hoskins, or him simply cutting a check back to the Treasury that can be utilized for all programs or for the betterment of the government. The principal chief, if the people choose to re-elect him, will not accept this pay increase, and has many avenues that he can return it to the nation for use. So he just wanted to officially put that on the record so that you all would be aware of that. I know he had been asked by the press before, so he just officially notified the council. He believes it's a sound policy that the council has passed, supports the increases. For the council, just wanted to put it on the record that it's not about an increase for him. Thank you.
Mr. Sheenhoff?
Tom, I got a question for you because I'm confused. The chief didn't veto the pay raise, so he wasn't against it. But he didn't sign it. I mean, if he didn't veto it, he was for it. But then he didn't bother to sign it. So what does that mean? It passed, it's law?
yes, according to the Constitution, that legislative acts passed by a vote of the council and must be specifically vetoed to trigger the override process. If a act goes without being signed for a period of 5 business days from its presentation to the executive branch, then it goes into effect as though it had been signed. Okay. I believe is the wording in the Constitution.
Did he relate to you, not anybody else? Did he tell you why he... I mean, he's saying he don't want the raise, but he didn't veto it. Did he relate to you? Why?
I haven't had any conversation with the chief on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Crittenden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was against the recommendation of the Citizens Committee earlier, voted against it, and I'll be voting for this act, which rejects their recommendation today for obvious reasons. I don't like it, so I'll be voting against it. I mean, for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coates?
Yes, thank you. There have been a number of statements made about employees not receiving raises of more than 3% in recent years. And when I started at the Cherokee Nation as an employee some 10, 12 years ago, and Mr. Buzzard and Mr. Anglin were there at approximately the same time and may recall, when I first began working, HR was at that time in a process of raising salaries for all employees across the board to equitable levels of what they would be receiving were they in the private sector. And so there were some good increases that took place at that time. There was no such increase for the tribal council at that time, however. And my understanding is that this citizens body or this committee has taken a look at what other elected officials, whether it's in tribal, state government, or so forth, and the salaries that they are making for the work that they do, which is comparable to the work that we do. And the 11% increases over 4 years is simply to raise ours to a standard that is comparable to what officials in other tribes in the state, et cetera, are making. And all that really indicates is how severely underpaid this body is for the amount of work that it does. And I really only see this as a process of doing for this body what was done for the employees more than 10 years ago, which is to raise this body's salary to a place that is equitable to our counterparts in other governments. Thank you.
Mr. Thornton, you had
I just had one thing to say, and she kind of set it off down here. The chief position, in my opinion, for this nation, and I don't care who's chief or who isn't chief, the chief position is very, very much underpaid position. This nation gives chief, I think it's $124,000 a year.
and you got 30 seconds.
Look in my local town of Vian, Oklahoma. Our high school superintendent receives more than what this is. And I think we need to take a good look at this, because I know at other tribes, this is probably close to half of what they receive, plus they get a house. And I want you to think about that, because Cherokee Nation is very much underpaid for the chief position.
Mr. Thornton,
Thank you.
Mr. Baker, and then Mr. Garvin.
Yeah. Well, when I first got on the council in 1995, we were paid about $1,200 a month and about $15,000 a year. And I set out a term, and I came back, and it was $36,000. So, I mean, in 4 short years, it had jumped up from about $15,000 to $36,000. And now we're going to jump it from $36,000 to $54,000. Folks, I mean, we only have meetings, 3 days a month, and half days at that. And some days we compress it in, and this just, I mean, we hear noises about we can't print money, we can't do this, we can't help our people, and but yet we're gonna sit by and let our salaries bump up. It's wrong. I hope you vote for this.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes. I'd like to read the Principal Chief's statement into the record, please. March 30th, 2011, Meredith Freitas, Speaker of the Council, members of the Cherokee Tribal Council, May compensation increase for Principal Chief. Dear and Madam Speaker and Council members, I wish to notify you in writing of my decision that if the Cherokee people choose to elect me as Principal Chief, I will not accept the compensation increase for the office of Principal Chief. It has been 8 years since the Principal Chief has had an increase in compensation. However, I advise you, I did not become Principal Chief for the title or compensation. but to do the work of our people, and therefore will not accept the increase in pay. I find the process of appointing an independent citizen commission to be sound and do not dispute the reasonableness of the recommendation for compensation in their report dated February 24, 2011, and therefore believe the legislation passed is sound policy for our elected officials. Nevertheless, at this time, I respectfully decline any compensation increase for me. If the Cherokee people choose to re-elect me as Principal Chief as authorized in Legislation Act 05-11. Sincerely, signed, Chad Smith. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Garvin. Dr. Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As one of the sponsors of 05-11, the current Compensation Act, several councilors have made comments and that we couldn't come to a decision, or over the last 8 years we couldn't come up with a unified. That inherently was the problem. We don't need to be doing that. This is sound policy the way it is currently written, 05-11, what is currently in effect. It's sound policy because it takes the compensation discussion, management, everything, the determination of salaries out of our hands. I do not believe it is good public policy for elected officials to be negotiating and discussing their own salaries. That is bad public policy. And what 05-11 has done is it puts it in the hands of a citizen compensation committee that reviews everything over several months and says this is what we think. And that's why I believe in the way it's written now. And I believe in the Cherokee citizens and their ability to come up with fair and equitable compensation. And I would like to give my remaining time to Todd Hembry and ask him what his opinion is of the current 05-11 that is in effect right now that we are operating under that will effectively raise salaries in August of 11.
Todd, you have a minute and a half.
Ooh. Okay.
Long time.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councilor Cobb. It's been said before in this body that it really doesn't matter what type of decision you come to as long as the process is good. I do believe, and I'm not running for anything, and I'll just say, you all work hard. You all do a good job. And it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week job. That you manage the budgets of over $500 million, and what you need is to attract those types of candidates that are well suited for this job, and putting the salary to where an individual with a family can run for council, I think is a good thing. If you limit it too much, you only get candidates that don't need the money to run. This office needs to be open for all citizens of Cherokee Nations, from all economic backgrounds, from all socio-political areas of the Cherokee Nation. The process, the way 05-11 is designed, and I'll say we all helped design it, was to depoliticize a very political process, to take it out of the politicians' hands as to who is going to, how a pay raise is going to be achieved, and to base it on objective standards of other tribes, like tribes. And my time is up, and I see that I will step down now.
Thank you. Ms. Cal-Watts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If we're going to have to deal with such a difficult issue, because this is not an issue that anyone wants to deal with, I have figured out who likes to talk about politicians, elected officials, or the money that they do or do not make. So we're at the point in our history where we have to, as a tribe, with the number of businesses that we try to help manage at arm's length as elected officials, the complicated issues surrounding our $600 million fiscal responsibility each year. And if you looked at industry, we would be making large amounts of money, much more than what is even being proposed on the table. But as public servants, we're not asking for that amount of money. We're not endorsing that amount of money that would be paid if it was equity within industry where a corporation was being paid. We are still being underfunded, especially with the out-of-pocket expenses. I don't have the fortune of being born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I come from a family of 2 teachers. If my Wyandotte husband did help me out so much and support the Cherokee Nation, I don't know where I would be because of the out-of-pocket expenses. But I consciously made a choice to leave my engineering career and pursue public service. But it has come at a cost. And it is not fair. I do not have children yet. If I had children, it would be even worse on the family, the obligations of the job. And I'm honored to take it. I might have had to make a choice that I couldn't serve, given where we're at financially now. So we would only be diminishing the pool of qualified candidates if we did not better serve and look at what this Citizens Committee has put forward as a more proper and adequate salary. I don't know what the rest of the council does because I can only account for my own time. But 3 days a month is not what I spend on this job. I work 7 days a week, and oftentimes I am traveling and not reimbursed for many of the expenses that come out of my pocket in order to cover that travel and other things. So I don't know how they pay for those out-of-pocket expenses, but I would rather know that I'm paid adequately by our tribal government in a proper, upfront fashion, so those expenses were known where they were coming from, and that we had integrity in this government and this body. I don't know how else to put it. Point of order, please. Can we control ourselves for just a moment? So we need to look at making sure that the future of the tribe and the integrity of this body is protected, so that individuals who do have family, as Mr. Hembry spoke to, individuals who are not personally wealthy, individuals who are not retired with a second income or those kind of things, or it's relegated only to those with maybe personal businesses where they're able to have flexibility. We need to know that we can do this on a proper salary. Thank you.
Ms. Fishing.
I have a point of, I don't know, maybe it's a point of order question for you. I object to Don Garvin reading the letter into the minutes, and Meredith, why I'm doing it is I was reading the letter and I never got down to the bottom until he said it. In it, he directly talks about being reelected if they reelect him principal chief, and I have a problem with that being in our minutes.
I didn't hear you object. Did you object?
Well, I raised my hand, but I didn't know if it was a point of order or what. It's okay. I just wanted in the record is I object to anybody on this body talking about them being reelected and read into the minutes. I just think it's in bad taste.
Okay.
Very
That in the
bad.
record. Okay, any other questions, comments? Oh, Mr. Crittenden, you got, how much you got? You got a minute and a half.
I'm gonna be quick. I remember one time we were in this room.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. Now, go ahead.
Okay, and really I object to Rogers County's comments about women not being able to do their job and have a kid. I feel like that set women back about 30 years. You know, I don't like comments like that at all. I think Herb Roselle said something here a while back that upset some people. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Crittenden?
I'll be quick. I remember us in this room talking one day about this committee's recommendations, and someone was concerned about how the executive branch might feel about what was about to take place. And oftentimes we worry too much about what they think about an issue instead of doing our job and letting them either veto it or whatever. But a gentleman stepped out of the room and I guess made a phone call and stepped back into the room and says they're okay with these recommendations. And then we get this letter, sort of upstaging everything. I don't appreciate it either. I was against a raise earlier, and I will be definitely voting to reject this. Thank you.
Madam Speaker? Mr. Crittenden, how much time do you have left? 25 seconds. 25 seconds. Now, do you want to yield to her?
No, I don't.
He does.
Well, I'd like it on the record that I'd like to respond to the statement about the principal chief's position.
Thank you. Mr. Soap?
Do I have time?
If you have any time left, Chris?
I didn't write down, but he did.
1 minute.
Okay, I would like to give my time to that, Melanie. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to note that I was the one conveying the principal chief's position that day, and I think it is consistent with the letter that he submitted to you. Specifically, the first sentence of the last paragraph, I find the process of appointing an independent citizen commission to be sound and do not dispute the reasonableness of the recommendation in their report dated February 24th, 2011. And I think that's very consistent to what I conveyed to this body. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Buzzard?
I was going to yield to Ms. Nunn.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Corey Morgan?
If I could, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
And Ms. Fishinghall. Any others?
I do.
Mr. Crittenden?
And I would also ask for a roll call vote.
It's an act, so it'll be a roll call
Point
vote.
of clarification on what a yes and a no vote does.
Yes is you support this legislation that's presented. No, you do not support.
So,
All minds clear?
now, yes would stop the raise.
Yes is supporting this legislation.
So it in effect would stop the raise.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Okay, roll call, Ms. Britton.
David Thornton,
No.
Kara Callan Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harley Buzzard,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghall,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tana Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Stokes,
No.
Curtis Snell.
No.
We have 4 yes and 13 no.
4 yes, 13 no, motion fails. Okay, number 8 is an act requiring elected officials to undergo random drug testing. Mr. Crittenden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to withdraw this until next month's rules
On table?
or table. Councilman Hoskin had a revised copy of some, with a lot of changes that I think we need to look at before we make a decision on it. I think it needs to be done, but that way everybody will have a chance to look at it and read it and study it and suggest changes of their own, and then we can come back next month and take some action maybe.
Have a motion to table?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The principal chief has a letter just in support of that legislation, supporting it. He had submitted himself to drug testing since it began. So I had a letter to pass out to you.
Mr. Crittenden, do you want to, it's your act, do you want that letter submitted or not?
Well, we tabled it, ma'am. Can we bring that back next month? Would that be all right with you?
Sure.
Or I can leave it with you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, item 9 is a discussion regarding administration's use of contractors to conduct focus group surveys. Mr. Hoskin.
Discussion on table. Madam Speaker, I want to express my appreciation for the administration of producing some information. I'd like to, because in the interest of time, I'd like to, at the end of some brief discussion, table it to the next month so we can have some maybe more robust discussion. But I did have some concerns about the timing of this focus group. We're using third parties to do a focus group that's yielded information that essentially reveals what our citizens and our employees are thinking, which can be valuable information, but the timing of it, same concern I have with the timing of some of these ads I've seen lately, bothers me at least on the surface, so I wanted to dig down a bit deeper. But I know that Mr. Stewart has come here to address this, and with the caveat that I would like to table for further discussion next month, I would yield some time to him to respond to what I just raised.
You want to yield the remaining 2.5 minutes to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Jurt?
I appreciate the time to respond. This campaign, just from a historical perspective, goes back to 2003 with the Common Values and Common Ground, where the initiative back then was to influence public opinion about the tribe and some of the things that we do. So it has its roots kind of going way back. If you look at the questions and some of the responses, it's not, it has really nothing to do with the performance of the tribe. What it has to do with is the perception of Indians, maybe not Indians, employees, not employees, about the tribe in general from an image point of view. So I can assure you, Councilman, that there is nothing in any way, shape, or form related to political campaign. Okay, that's not the purpose. I guess, I mean, you can look at the timing any way you want to, but this has been underway for some time.
Just briefly, Madam Speaker, we contracted this out to a third party. Is there anything in that agreement that prevents this data from going to another third party? And not limited to a political campaign, but any third party, but a political campaign is what comes to mind. I mean, I've seen some of the questions, and I do think they go to what is on the minds of the people, what's important to them. And I think when we carry this over next month, we'll have some examples of that. But I just wonder, is there any assurances that this won't be sold or given to a third party?
Yes, I think, and I think I just had to confirm that there is a non-disclosure provision in the contract that they cannot give this to external parties. That's a customary contract provision that we put.
But to the extent that the data is in the hands of C&B, I guess you all use it to develop your media campaign, but I'm concerned, I mean, we obviously asked for it under GRA, and we have all the data, but
yeah.
I guess
well,
I'm concerned about how that could be
primarily
used.
the people involved in that are under Mike's direction and myself. This is not a corporate-wide distributed document. The full body of the document, it kind of maintains within the officer level. So we're sensitive to that, and I understand what you're saying. So we try to do that, but there's no guarantees. I mean,
Thank you,
as you
Mr.
know.
Stewart. And Madam Speaker, and I don't want to suppress anyone else's opportunity to speak, but I would make a motion to table this to the next month. I think we've got a lot of information that we got into the DRA we need to review, so I'd make that motion.
There's a motion to table.
Second.
And second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
And we'd be happy to visit beforehand to go over this with you so you're prepared.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for next month. Okay, item 10 is discussion and possible action to set up a subcommittee regarding illegal acts. I agreed to sponsor this in order to get it on the floor, so Ms. Ragsdale, I'll yield 3 minutes to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually am going to go to the senior person. If you don't mind, Secretary of State is prepared to discuss this.
So, Paula, so you're not going to, you're going to yield to her?
Yield to my senior.
Okay.
I got both.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just very briefly, this is to pick up on the Principal Chief's report at the last Rules Committee. He handed out this very packet, so this is not new. This is the exact packet that got handed out at the last meeting. And it just illustrates the story of one particular act that was passed, ostensibly passed in 1997 and remains on our books today. And that act is Legislative Act 0697. And if you all recall your history at the time, we were going through a lot of turmoil at the time. We had our legislative body meeting, and it was later determined that our legislative body met illegally. This was one of the acts that was passed during one of those such meetings, and it deals with the removal of justices, which, as you recall, was very highly controversial at the time. And so we, looking for other types of materials, ran across this act. The question becomes how many other such acts may be out there, and should we review that entire period of time? And Madam Speaker, I would recommend that review come under your supervision because, of course, codification is something that is overseen by the council. This raises a very important issue. Removal of justices is very serious, and how many other acts remain on our books from those meetings that were declared to be illegal by our court. So that's the matter at hand, and the chief's recommendation is that either a subcommittee or a regular report be made to the committee until all of those acts are identified, that you have opportunity to review them and determine what action needs to be taken at that point. Thank you.
Is that all you need? Mr. Hoskins?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it seems to me that acts that have been struck down by the court, as a matter of law, they're nothing. They're struck down. This is a housekeeping measure. I suspect there's a fair number of laws over the years that have been rendered null and void by some actions. I guess I question whether we need a subcommittee, which I think was in the title of the agenda item. I mean, it seems to me, in the course of codification, if Mr. Hembry identifies and his group identifies a number of laws that have been that need to be deleted for housekeeping purposes, that he would do that in due course. So, Todd, am I correct? There's this particular act here, which was a hot-button controversial issue when it happened, and it's the only one that happened to be drawn and attached to this memo. But I suspect there's more than just this that are, for whatever reason, null and void, that we need some housekeeping attention. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Hoskins, and I would state that I do not believe it's necessary for a subcommittee to be formed. This is part of the codification process. And I appreciate the executive branch renewed interest in the codification process, and welcome their input at any time, and hope that we could have had this all the way through the process. The Attorney General's office has been intimately involved in the codification process, and lawyers from that office has, along with myself, have gone through every act that has passed since 1994. I went back and I saw the legislative act that was attached, and that was 0697, and I thought, well, how did we treat that when we went over it? And we went over there, we saw the title, it would belong to Title 20, and one of our, in bold print, is constitutional, question mark. We recognize this in other acts that are about their constitutionality throughout the entire process, in a vis-a-vis with what may have happened in the past, whether there's quorum presence, whether they coincide with the 2006 Constitution. And I guess to put it bluntly, we're doing this process right now. And I don't believe a subcommittee would be needed. The only thing that would do is, I will quote a phrase earlier used today, that it bogged down the system. So I believe that we will be submitting a report here in the next several days as to the completion of this codification process. We will be making recommendations along with the Attorney General's office as to what acts that we would recommend this council to repeal, and Legislative Act 0697 will be one of them. Sure would like to have their help on everything else, but I do not believe that a subcommittee would be needed at this point.
Time, Mr. Hopkins. Ms. Calm-Watts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I agree. I don't know that a subcommittee, because it's going to take full action from this body. So it sounds like we need this to be an agenda item where there's a beginning. I don't know that we can resolve it in one meeting, but we need to start understanding what the act is, why it didn't work, either if there wasn't a quorum or if it was an illegal meeting, and what it is that we may need to technically repeal, even though we don't think it's legal. I think we need to understand that we need to address it and keep moving on this codification. And I think only really this body can hear that, and so it just needs to be an agenda item next month.
Second the motion.
I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
And restate your motion.
That we have this, is that the report is an agenda item with action to take on this legislation that needs to be repealed.
Rather than a subcommittee.
in lieu of a subcommittee, that it needs to come to this committee.
Mr. Garvin seconded that. Now, discussion, Mr. Thornton?
Yeah, I'd like to yield some time to the eloquent
Mr.
counselor
Eloquent there.
sitting next to me.
3 minutes.
Chuck Hoskin, too.
I was looking to Harley when he said eloquent. Madam Speaker, this is an unnecessary exercise. We just heard from the person we've charged with codification that this process is underway. If we're interested in relitigating the legislative act that's been struck down, then we should put this on the agenda. We should have extensive discussion and debate about whether that act was lawful or not. But the fact of the matter is that ship sailed, gosh, has it been a decade? It's been a while. It doesn't serve a purpose. I think by any objective standard, if you look at the work that Mr. Hembry's done, the inescapable conclusion is we don't need to do anything. It doesn't need to be an agenda item. Today, we've had quite a large agenda. Let's not overburden our work with what is truly an unnecessary exercise. I will be voting against that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Hembry?
Well, Madam Chairman, I would state that this is an agenda item on each month. It's called the codification report. I'd be happy to, at the next codification report, give you a list of the acts and contact the administration, the Attorney General's office, and see what acts are identified and make a report on them. But that's what the codification report is, and so therefore I believe we've got it covered.
Are you yielding your remaining time to her, to Ms. Hammond?
By all means, and even extra time if I have.
You have a minute and a half, Ms. Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was going to propose the same thing. I think this is a very important issue. Many of those of us who live that, still very near to us. I do think that we can't be too careful in making sure that when we get our new books published, that we omit all of those that have been struck down by court action. Mr. Hoskin is absolutely right. They're dead, but I think that as part of the codification, that we would all be well served if we identify those and make sure that they're gone. And I think that would satisfy everyone's concerns if we could do that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so, Ms. Calmwatts, you had a motion to include this as a monthly report. Mr. Garvin seconded it. No further discussion.
And
Go
just
ahead.
to clarify, not just a monthly report, but if there's action that needs to be taken, it would be brought to our attention at that time so we could keep the codification. So it would be an actionable, not just the codification report, which we already have on the agenda, but this would be unique in dealing with just this set of time and legislation period.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
No.
Did you get those names? Mr. Hoskins, Ms. Glory Jordan, Ms. Fishing Hawk? Any others? I didn't get everybody's no. Okay. You got that in your little mind, Mr. Hoskin? I mean, not Mr. Hoskin, Mr. Hembry. Point of order.
Speaker, we have the last remark stricken from the record.
Write that remark.
The item 11 has been withdrawn by Mr. Buzzum. It's been a long day. So, Mr. Buzzard, I'm sorry. Okay, so item 12 is the resolution in support of the Adair State Park located in Stillwell and requesting the state of Oklahoma to remain open. Ms. Fishing Hawk.
This is just a resolution in support of keeping the park open, and I move for its approval.
Second with the friendly that I be added as a response.
I'm sorry, Mr.
That I be added as a response.
Okay.
And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. And I requested earlier, but I don't know if they didn't,
Yes,
I want
she
to
got
be.
it.
And I would like to be a
Ms.
co-sponsor.
Glory Jordan.
Is there any, hold on.
I suggest the entire council.
Is the
Is
entire.
there anyone who doesn't want to be a sponsor? Okay, so everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 13 is a similar resolution for the Lake Uchee State Park. It's a good fishing area. Mr. Thornton.
Resolution support of the Lake Uchee State Park located in Delaware County, Oklahoma. Request for the state of Oklahoma for it to remain open. Put this in form of motion.
Moved in second. Discussion?
And, sir, are we going to put all the council members on as sponsors?
Anyone doesn't want to be a
I would like
sponsor?
to be.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 14 is a resolution in support of Brushy Lake State Park. Mr. Thornton.
This is in support of Brushy Lake in located in Scourge County, Oklahoma, and requesting the state of Oklahoma for it to remain open. Put that in form of a motion.
Moved in second. Discussion? Everyone wants to sponsor.
Yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Could also request that a copy of this, plus all the signatures, be sent out to all representatives and state senators within this jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And that's on all of these, right?
All of them, everyone. Every
I think we voted. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, any announcements? Yes, Mr. Thornton.
I don't know if any of y'all received this email, and you may have, but we've got a man that started out in Chattanooga, Tennessee, taking the upper trail of the Trail of Tears, the northern route, and he started out walking. And I don't know how many of y'all have received this, but he's about 3/4 done with his trip, and he plans on coming into Tahlequah and ending his trip at Tahlequah. And I think it would be great if the Cherokee Nation could go out and sponsor him in any way, shape, or form, and that we could be there, or whoever could possibly be there when he comes and walks into town. I think this is a tremendous, tremendous thing that this person is doing. I thought about doing it myself, but I didn't think I could make it. But that's the truth now, about the last 5 years. But anything that, any way we can help this person, I think they would appreciate it. And this person, his name is Cooper. It's his wife's name Crystal Cooper, and his name Ron. I think it's Ron Cooper. But if anybody wants this sent to them, I'll send it to them. And I don't know, have anybody else received this? Did you get everybody received it? Okay. I think we need to bring forward something recognizing him. I don't know exactly what.
Do you want to bring that forward?
A resolution or something, yes. I'd like to bring forward a resolution recognizing him for what he's done.
Mr. Curtis.
Is this Cooper Cherokee?
Yeah, from what I understand, he is.
No,
He is?
Iowa, or Comanche.
Then he's really doing something. And he's not, because he's teaching classes, what I understand, to the towns that he enters on the way.
He is.
And if he's not Cherokee and he's doing this, he sure needs to be recognized.
Any other announcements? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
In history, there's been